Hey everybody, I'm back with 10 more of the hardest JRPGs that I have ever beaten. So you could say these are my numbers 11 to 20, considering this is part 2, you get the idea. And don't worry, all of these were released outside of Japan. And with that clarified, let's begin! Okay, so my number 10 is Chrono Cross, but let me explain. I showed this as an honorable mention in the previous video, but I never really said why. Problem with this game is that you can't grind the normal way, cause enemies don't give you any experience whatsoever. Occasionally, your characters will increase some random status, but it's somewhat rare. You only level up by defeating the bosses, so this isn't exactly your traditional RPG where you can just grind your way through. It's all about learning how to use your elements, having the best equipment possible and forge weapons and armor. Trust me, I went through hell when I first played this RPG, cause it is indeed very hard. My strategy was this. Look at the menu for each character right now during battle. They all have 3 attacks, right? Each with a certain percentage. What I did was attack once or twice, then select element down there, so they could cast 1 magic in their turn. Even though it's very annoying how the enemy keeps interrupting your turns randomly. Obviously the best thing you can do is select the magic your enemy is weak to. This is exactly how it worked out for me with the bosses. Another thing to do is use characters with the same element as the enemy, so they will receive much less damage or even void it. But of course, equipping them with opposite elements to attack. Still, I had a really hard time with this game, especially because the stronger the element, the more expensive it was to buy it, and getting money here was tough. And boy, even with those tactics, some bosses here, especially near the end of the game, ended up burying me alive dozens of times. Tricky bastards. Number 9. Phantasy Star 4. While not as hard as its 3 predecessors, this 4th and final entry in the original Saga was still tough as nails. However, and very thankfully, grinding helped my cause a hell of a lot. Of course, having the best equipment and knowing what skills to use made its big contribution, but I honestly felt it was all about leveling up. This game can be so random at times and throw you tough enemies out of nowhere, and they're way harder to kill than any other enemy in the same area. And if we're gonna start talking about some of the bosses, might as well grab a cup of coffee. I absolutely hated some of them, because they often did this really nasty area of effect attacks, but the most preposterous aspect of this game is how there's no way to see the turn order. One that sometimes can be so goddamn random, you can't plan your strategies accordingly, like Chrono Cross. So the only way to survive through this nightmare was to level up. That's right. And well, it worked for me. I'm not saying that's gonna work for everybody, but it did for me. Number 8. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Well, this game is infamous for being one of the hardest in the series. Wanna know why? There was an error in localization. It was supposed to come with a normal and a hard mode, I guess, but they screwed up and changed the names to easy and normal, which meant playing the game on easy meant you were actually playing on normal. So many people played on normal, which was actually hard. And that's the reason why so many gamers out there went through hell on their first try with this excellent sequel. Yes, you need to play Path of Radiance on the GameCube in order to fully understand what's going on here. Going back to the difficulty, just imagine being your first time playing this game as maybe one of your first titles in the series, on the mistaken normal mode. But did that happen to me? Nope, because I found out about this little issue beforehand, so I played on easy, which is normal, on my first time. And it was still a goddamn pain in the ass to beat! Even on that mode, it has some extremely nasty maps that can roast your nerves and burn your patience. And yes, it has perma fucking death like most Fire Emblem games of its time. I still loved it though, and it's still my favorite RPG on the Wii, beating it 3 times so far, but every time I'm about to go into those maps, with a million enemies waiting around, I dread no matter what. Number 7. Romancing Saga. This is a remake of the original one that never came out of Japan. Fortunately, this excellent version was localized and it's the one I played. Like in the previous video, absolutely none of these games have an easy mode. Well, at least not a real easy mode. And this game belongs to the Saga franchise, one that is infamous for harboring really hard titles. While I found this one to be much friendlier than some of the others, I still had a shit ton of issues. Almost every single one of them, however, were about finding out where the hell was I supposed to go? Hours lost into needless grinding and senseless exploration. Days after having started my first playthrough with Albert, I had to restart the whole game. Why? Because I realized this was almost impossible to beat without a walkthrough, especially because there's a goddamn time limit that I didn't know about. The end of the world will arrive by then, and if you're not prepared, say goodbye to your whole adventure. So I restarted with Claudia, followed directions on the walkthrough, suffered through the several extremely hard bosses, and miraculously succeeded. Man, this is one tough bastard, but make no mistake though, as I still love it, and it's my favorite in the series. The hell? I'm starting to realize some of my favorite RPGs of all time have been in these videos. Man, what's wrong with me? Number 6. Fate Extra. See what I mean? All my favorites. Anyway, this one is an RPG that tells you from the start that you'll need to grind as much as you can in these virtual dungeons. Because it's a tournament-based game where you'll need to defeat a participant and their servant every chapter. They give you a limited amount of days to train for each battle. Fortunately, there's no time limit inside the dungeons, so you can just grind there as much as you want to. But of course, you have to wait for the enemies to respawn over and over again. So it becomes repetitive and tiresome, however, I didn't mind that because I love the battle system. You have to study the enemy patterns so you can memorize what their order of actions will be and act accordingly. It has a rock, paper, scissors system, where one type of action defeats the other. Because I had to grind a lot, considering the bosses are very tough, I eventually memorized the enemy's patterns and pulled through. The real hard part, however, obviously came from the bosses themselves. You don't have time to memorize theirs, because there's only one type of them, right? And you only fight them once! So the only way to beat them is to fight them, die, try again over and over, or rely on luck, instinct, and guts. On top of it all, they change their patterns every single turn. Beating the crap out of them, believe me, is so satisfying, regardless of the method you used. Maybe that's one of the reasons I love this game so much. Number 5. Stella Deus, the Gate of Eternity. This hidden gem developed by Atlus and Pinegrow, whoever the hell that is also another grind fest. But this one is the type that you'll spend more time leveling up than actually playing the story. You will gain access to this weird ass place where you will be able to train your characters as you please. It took me forever to grind them properly because I had to go back to this place every 2 or 3 missions. It's like those damn Idea Factory games now that I think about it. I don't know what's the point in overpowering even the lamest enemies so often when the ones from before weren't that tough. You got it right, it's full of annoying difficulty spikes. I can't believe this RPG is hotter than Eternal Poison because of that, and there's no place to grind that game. Obviously, it's a strategy RPG, so if you go in there with no tactics whatsoever, you'll have to grind even more. One of the biggest issues lies within the fact that characters take up forever to change class, even with a lot of grinding. Also, they have to equip items, so the game limits your resources from the start. Last but not least, characters have limited action points, which means moving can prevent you from attacking at the same time. Which means sometimes either you'll move or you'll attack. so you'll be constantly exposed. I really enjoyed this game, but these dumbass penalties only made it unnecessarily harder. At least there's no permadeath here. Number 4, Growlancer 3, The Dual Darkness. Remember when I shared my precious and very memorable experiences with Growlancer 4 on the PSP? Then it won't be hard to explain how much I enjoy this prequel son of a bitch. Yup, chronologically speaking, this is a prequel to all Growlancer games. I guess they were going for a more balanced experience with this one before losing their minds with the next one. It is indeed easier compared to it, but that doesn't mean it's not tough as hell too. My major problem with this game was the fact that you often had to fight tons of enemies with your small party. Thing is, most of them are about the same level as you, with similar status. Stress mostly comes from the real-time strategy, as you'll constantly need to stop your characters from whatever they're doing and use the menu to determine the best course of action. Because sometimes it might be too late to change your tactics since the enemy changes them all the time! They're hard to predict and tough to defeat. Often, some of the most annoying enemies will be so far away, reaching them will be a pain in the anus, even with the right rings equipped. What, you wanna grind? Well, you'll certainly have to somewhat often, but it's not gonna make that much of a difference. Best way to put up with this game's bullshit is to put up with the game's bullshit. Period. Number 3, Rogue Galaxy. Say what you want, brag your ass off on how easy this game was for you, I don't give a damn. I said before how I'm not great with action RPGs, and this fucker here only serves to prove my goddamn point! It's infamously known for having some of the longest and most tedious dungeons in existence. Not because the map is bad, even though it kinda is, but because the navigation itself can take up forever. I know they wanted to give the player an open world feeling, but some of these areas only serve to piss the shit out of me! And what's the one thing that makes these horrible dungeons all the more obscene in JRPGs? High encounter rate. And it's an action RPG, which means your thumbs will get sore and tired extremely often because you'll have to fight more than necessary. Often you'll be relying on items and potions, and if you run out of them, you guessed it, you're done for. Your characters and their pathetic status will be badly hurt all the time. So what can we do to make it even harder, thought the developers. Let's see. Oh, that's right! Let's give the player a cooldown penalty. Characters will be unable to attack for a while if they attack too much. That's a wonderful way to kill the pace in the action. Awesome, let's do that, what a great idea! Fuck you, assholes! Number goddamn 2, Star Ocean: The Second Story. Once again, there is only one reason why I'm including this game here. So high on the list to make it even more intriguing. It's a hard RPG, alright, the challenge is balanced for the most part, even though the more you advance the tougher it gets. That's normal, except that you'll reach a point where all your confidence will simply disappear. Once I got to the Guardians, I got my ass handed back to me a gazillion times. It's near the end of the game, which means most of my adventure had posed no major problems before. Some of the Guardians, with their thousands of health points and their one-hit kills, can be brutal. But they're just the tip of the iceberg. I don't want to spoil the game for you, but I'm sorry. Once you get to the part where you gotta fight all the main antagonists, you'll see how utterly disgraceful this PS1 classic can really be. It will show you its true colors and come out of the fucking closet with a ghastly grin all over its face. Might I add, this game has one of the absolute hardest final bosses in the history of gaming. And if you enter the final dungeon and overwrite your file there when you save, you can't get out anymore. It's a point of no return. I got to the final boss, died, grinded several levels, died, grinded again, died, rinse and repeat. That is until I gave it my all and beat the shit out of him with sheer luck and skill. Yeah, this game was very hard for me. Number 1. Grow Lancer 2, The Sense of Justice. Nothing beats the godmother of rage quitting the entire list. Nothing. Grow Lancer 3 often felt like a joke compared to some of the crazy shenanigans this game put me through. Grow Lancer 4, however, is still harder, but this one doesn't stay behind at all. It was the conditions, man. The mission objectives that kissed my fucking patience goodbye. It's hard to believe how unbalanced it can be just because of one stupid ass requirement. I'll give you a few examples. In this mission, for example, you have a time limit. You need to reach a certain point while powerful casters are frying your ass with magic. All of this while the floor starts falling off very quickly. Another messed up mission is early in the game. You gotta beat these heavy armor bastards with your current lame ass equipment with just 3 characters. 2 of them do little to no damage, and one has to obviously keep healing and buffing. There are also several painful escort missions, by the way, some I don't even want to remember. The worst mission, however, is one that is 2 in a row where you need to keep the enemies occupied while your main character sneaks into their base. But the worst part is the second part of the mission. He's by himself, attempting to lit fire all over the place to burn their supplies. The enemy, no matter what you do, will see you after a few minutes, and if you're not over leveled, forget it, it's guaranteed game over. Because no matter where you go, a bunch of powerful enemies will block your way out! What the fucking fuck, man? What kind of crazy ass psychopath comes up with these twisted mission designs? They're literally just there to make your life miserable. Do they really think it's to challenge the player? To force them to strategize, farm, and level up? No! It's to stick their fucking dicks in every goddamn hole in your body! I beat this game once, I rage quit on the second time, that's it for me. I'm never playing this infuriating piece of shit ever again.
Thanks for joining. Today I'll be playing, finally at long last, Grow Lancer 2, The Sense of Justice.
Fuck.